Good morning, everyone. I can do this. My dear Brandon, on April 28, 2015, when I received a call from the Antioch Police Department asking if I was the mother of Brandon Petrocelli, there has been an accident involving a drunk driver. Confused and all, I listened to the officer say that you were among the ones that did not make it. You died on the scene. The doctors didn't even have a chance to resuscitate you. Oh my God. I felt my whole world crushed before my very eyes. I prayed. I prayed that this was not true. I kept saying to myself over and over again, please let this be a dream. Please, oh Lord, don't let this be true. It just isn't fair. No, Lord. How can it be? How can someone be so selfish to take the life of my baby away? I just felt like dying. You were my baby. I expected you to be around to bury me when I die. Before April 28, 2015, I had never gone a day without you. Your presence was the one certainty of my life. When that was snatched away, nothing ever seemed to... When that was snatched away, nothing ever seemed safe again. My dear son, I look for you everywhere. My eyes always search you in the skies. Yet there is just silence. I just want to talk to you again, to hear your voice, to hear you laugh. My heart longs to find you in heaven and have those moments that I see other mothers share that is so unique with their children. Your death has robbed me of comfort and motherhood memories. Because those memories are now clouded with sadness, yet memories are all that I have of you, and that's where I can go to be with you. I thought that we would grow together, facing the challenges of mother and son, and that of our family humor and mutual support. I feel desperately sad that you will not be able to celebrate your 17th birthday in a couple of weeks. Oh, Father, please help me cope with this. What am I to do? And yet, follow through with your goals and accomplishments that you have set in place already. And now, we'll never know. Some rawness and rage remains. Some has given way to sadness, but I have lost a peace of mind forever, perhaps. That is why I am such an over-anxious mother. How can I face the world when I'm missing you, putting on a mask, to cover the grief that I have, to cover the grief that has made me a lousy company? But what am I to do? I have come through this with a totally different set of friends. Some took such a large step back, they disappeared. Others just ignored it and expected me to be the same as before. Sadly, many friendships do not survive. those that are still with me or join me laterally are those who acknowledge you and accept that I am changed by all this, or those who are themselves bereaved or have had major life-changing experiences to which I am not an alien but a kindred spirit. Mother and son can be intensively close, and we were. Although we had our ups and downs, we were different. You were fun, enthusiastic, humble, quiet, a go-getter type of person, respectful of all ages. You treated everyone equal, and you loved to participate in your youth and church group functions. As for me, I was only there to shadow you. Now it's like walking about with an open wound. Without you, I will always be incomplete. And no, there is no closure. The loss will stay with me, but it evolves. I thought that I could deal with absolutely anything until this. But unfortunately, it shook my very foundation and it shattered my world. The grief is too overwhelming. It hurts. I can't stop crying. I lost my sense of humor, and in reality, it will return. But you, my dear son, I will never have the pleasure to hold, touch, hug, kiss, and see you again. I missed you, Brandon. You will forever have a place in my heart. I love you, my dear son. Until we meet again, your mother.
Before I read, I want to help all of you understand that I wish we could all go through the program that we just went through, because these people I've bonded with for the last 36 hours have really changed my life, and I want you all to understand that we are the representation of what happens when you make choices, and that the choices that you make do not only affect you, they affect everybody, friends, family, whoever you are. And if you think about those choices before you make them, then a mother does not have to mourn her dead son. Dear Mom, what could my last words possibly be to my mother that has lost me? A parent that has dedicated themselves to provide their son with protection and unconditional love, and yet to have it all stripped away. There is nothing I can say to bring myself back. I can only comfort you and help you understand my appreciation for all you have done for me. You are the most dedicated mother a son could ask for. You are someone who has been through an atrocious upbringing and given her child the exact opposite. You and I have been through lots of struggle. I have to thank you with all my heart for never giving up and continuing to push on. You brought us to a place where we could live our lives and be comfortable. Through that struggle, you became my best friend. You and I could talk for hours and not even realize the time was going by. I love that most about our relationship. We always made it together. You now have to make it through life without me. find peace with my death and help it realize that others will learn from it. There are no words powerful enough for me to tell you how much I love and appreciate you, Mom. You are my world, and I will be your angel. Truly yours, Tyree.
Thank you. I'm absolutely honored to be here today, and I'm very grateful to every single person that made this happen. To every one of you amazing students that are here this morning, you'll hear two words that I will scream out during this program of how much you matter. You saw the situations between moms and their sons, and how much when it came to a point like this, how devastated within one moment, not one day, one moment a life was changed forever. I grew up hearing the most ridiculous statements in my life. Take life one day at a time. Play my athletic events one game at a time. No, life does not take place one day at a time. Life takes place one moment at a time. An athletic event does not take place one game at a time. It takes place one play, one shot, one hit, one catch, one serve. The last two Super Bowls are prime examples of how one play literally transformed an entire game. Life is no different. Every moment has the power, good, bad, right, or wrong, to impact lives forever. I was in Baltimore, Maryland recently, and this one precious girl made it so clear to me about the simplicity of the message that I'm going to share with you this morning. I speak to about 3,000 students. I do 3 assemblies. One of my favorite things to do in those situations is to go hang out during the lunch period. I'm in the lunch signing books and talking to students, and very similar to your school, I wish all that's been going on there recently that I could have the privilege of sharing this in Baltimore, Maryland. Because this was a mixed-race school, and as I'm sitting there signing books and talking to a mass of students, I noticed a young boy sitting over here. The way the cafeteria was set up at the school, 2 tables would come together as one, and it was row upon row upon row of these double cafeteria tables. The boy sitting over here happened to be a white/Caucasian student. He's eating his lunch, and he's wearing a baseball cap, and he's staring straight down at the table. I'm looking at him, and I'm scanning my eyes throughout the entire cafeteria, and as I come to the table right next to him, there's 5 African-American girls eating their lunch, having fun, doing nothing wrong, doing what they should be doing as a high school student, enjoying their friends during lunchtime. And as I scan throughout the entire cafeteria again, I realize why this boy won't pick up his head. He's the only person in that entire cafeteria out of 750 students that is eating lunch by himself. I'm going to tell you straight up. Nobody on this earth wants to be kicked to the curb, thrown under the bus, humiliated, isolated, and not feel that they are part of something. So as a former teacher, coach, counselor, and even when I was back in high school and college, one thing I never tolerated is when people were abused, mistreated, isolated. I want people to feel loved and welcome. So I get up and I start to walk towards this boy to invite him to come and hang with me. Because I know the pain is too much for him to pick up his head and look throughout the cafeteria. When all of a sudden one of the 5 African-American girls gets up and walks towards him. She bends down and she goes, "Hello! My name is Jackie. What's your name?" And when he peeks over the brim of his cap, I'm not embarrassed to tell you, I stood dead in my tracks in that cafeteria and I cried like a baby. As he looks up at Jackie, his exact words were, "My name is John." And Jackie goes, "Hey, John, you don't have to sit here by yourself anymore. Why don't you come and have lunch with me and my friends?" He kicks his head back and goes, "You want me to come on, John." John grabs his lunch. He runs to the other side of the table. He puts his lunch down. He pulls his cap off. I watched John for the last 25 minutes of lunch. This is not the same boy. He's smiling. He's joking. He's laughing for 3 reasons. 1, he's not alone anymore. 2, count him. He's the only boy in that cafeteria with 5 beautiful girls all to himself. But number 3, one precious girl understood 2 words. matter. One precious girl did not care about gender, skin color, or anything else. She understands the simple principle about life, and that is this. When I grew up during the 60s, 70s, and early 80s, I loved everything in music. My favorite kind of music, I'm sorry, it's not around anymore. I love true rock, soul, and rhythm and blues. I love that kind of music personally. And one of my favorite rock bands of all time was a band called Foreigner. They have the anthem of the world. I want to know what love is. I want you to show me. Every person in this world has one desire: to be loved, valued, received, accepted, and to fit in. And when they feel that they don't, and they feel that they don't matter, they're going to have a greater tendency of running to something to make them feel that they matter. But the sad reality is, that thing usually is going to be detrimental to their life. As you can tell by my very strong accent, I grew up in the very deep South, part of Brooklyn, New York. I tell people something simple. If you ever go to my hometown of Brooklyn, bring a camera. Because you're going to see things in Brooklyn, I promise, you'll never see again in your life. Starting with your camera. Growing up in Brooklyn, I grew up with two wonderful parents. Dad was Italian. Mom is Swedish. You're looking at the original Swedish meatballs, just so you know it. I love my mom, but my mom sometimes would say some confusing things. I'm playing in this tree in front of my house. Our tree does grow in Brooklyn. My mom storms out the door. She sees me in the tree and yells at me, "Bobby, you better get out of that tree right now. Because if you fall out of that tree and you break both of your legs, don't come running to me." I'm like, okay, I'll come crawling. Well, growing up in Brooklyn, I wanted to be like my uncle. Bobby Petrocelli, Napoleon Dynamite had one thing in common. We both have an Uncle Rico. My Uncle Rico, though, was a professional baseball player. It's a miracle I'm alive. Why? I grew up in Brooklyn, New York. I was a Boston Red Sox fan in Brooklyn, New York. My Uncle Rico Petrocelli played for the Red Sox for 15 years. I wanted to be like him. Went to the same high school he did. By the time I graduated high school, I traveled all the way out to Tulsa, Oklahoma. And I played major college baseball in the late 70s and early 80s, excuse me. At a D1 school in America, the #1 team in the nation my junior year, a school called Oral Roberts University. By the time I'm a senior in college, I realized my baseball career ain't happening. I couldn't hit the curveball. You don't hit the curveball, you go nowhere with a baseball career, but I did get an education. I was a smart college student. I had the privilege of cramming a 4-year college education into 6 years. I kept on switching my majors. My first major in college was French. Imagine a guy from Brooklyn teaching French. Hey, yo, parlez-vous français? My second major, underwater basket weaving, no future in it. I tell people I graduated college in the top 10% of the bottom third of my class. My friends graduated college with honors, magna cum laude, summa cum laude. I graduated, thank you, Lord, I was happy to get out. Started my senior year in college, a buddy of mine introduced me to a beautiful woman from Texas. Her name was Ava. He said, if you and Ava get together, I promise you'll have a great relationship. I'm thinking, how in the world am I getting along with a girl from Texas? We talk different. I say use guys. Ava says y'all. We ever have children, they're going to say yes all. Within a year after I graduate college, I get engaged. Students of Deer Valley, the scariest thing I ever did when I got engaged. I went to the dictionary and I looked up the word engaged. There is something wrong with the definition of what's happening with two people in love. Why? The actual definition reads, to do battle with the enemy. You gotta be kidding me. So I looked up the word mother-in-law. Big star next to it says, see the word engaged. No, I'm just kidding. Ava and I engaged. A year later, we're married. We're married for 2 years, 3 months. We move in our first house, home of my dreams. 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, 2-car garage, dishwasher, microwave oven, fireplace. The only fireplace we had in Brooklyn. I go into the streets, pick up the garbage pail, bring it to the kitchen, and torch it right there. I'm in the house for 2 months, married to Ava for almost 2.5 years. This one Thursday night, I traveled 90 miles away to coach in a football game. 90 miles one way to coach in a football game, you gotta be kidding me. Every school in Brooklyn was 90 seconds away. 90 miles out of Brooklyn, I'm dealing with 4 different states and 20 million people. Texas, here, maybe in California, 90 miles like going around the block. But here's what shocked me in Texas. I'm coaching high school football in Texas in front of 20,000 fans. Brooklyn, I played my high school football in front of 20 fans. But they were faithful. When our games were over, they always came on the field to beat up our opponents. I tell people, some of you guys play football, you think you're tough. Let me tell you how tough my high school football team was in Brooklyn. On defense, we played no games. As soon as we sacked the quarterback, we went to the stands and sacked his family. We got to the root of the problem. I come home this Thursday night, I walk in the kitchen, David greets me, I look over her shoulder. There on the table, my second love of life, a big bowl of pasta. Now I am Italian, I mentioned. I love everything to do with pasta, but I promise I have no family in the mafia, number 2. This precious mom and her daughter, I feel so bad for you. Why? Like all Italians from Brooklyn, I spit when I talk. It's like, I know. And number 3, I fulfill the major criteria of being Italian from Brooklyn. Cross my heart, I promise you, I really do have a cousin Vinny, just so you guys know. And when I finish eating, she talks to me about 2 things. 1, can we go Thanksgiving shopping this weekend? Because number 2, your family's coming from New York to Texas for Thanksgiving. She says goodnight to me, I watch a little more television. 20 minutes later, I crawl into bed next to her, kiss her on the cheek, tell her I love her. She mumbles she loves me back. I roll over on my back and oh my goodness, there it is. Moonlight on the ceiling. Once a month, a full moon would be lined up behind my house, shining moonlight through my bedroom window onto the ceiling. Students, it doesn't get any better than this. I'm a married man. Men, you know where I'm coming from. I'm laying next to my beautiful wife alone in bed at night. There's moonlight on the ceiling. I'm a man. I know it's important to me. Forget the romance. I'm a man. I throw both of my hands and make animal figures on the ceiling. After my last who knows what, I check on Ava. She's out like a light. I close my eyes, and the next thing I know, I wake up approximately 1 hour later. Instead of in my bed, I'm sitting in the dining room window, which is the next room over. Dining room window, middle of the night, looking for more pasta. 3 bowls were not enough. Starting on breakfast at 12:30 in the morning, sleepwalking. I step off the ledge, I take about a step forward, and I bang into something in front of me. Believing it's the dining room table, I reach out to touch the table. It's hot to the touch. And then I notice something really smells really bad. And there's a haze, there's a fog, there's smoke in front of me. And all of a sudden, there's a very, very bright light to the right of me, and I'm believing it's the moon coming in through the living room, and I begin to wave my arms to clear out this haze, this fog, and this smoke. And I now realize the light to the right of me is not from the moon. The light to the right of me is from a full-size F-150 Ford pickup truck parked in the middle of my dining room. No exaggeration, my first response seriously was, oh, drive-through service in Texas is different than New York. They come through your house until a man steps out of the truck. Our eyes meet, and he asks me a simple question. Is there somebody else in the house? Please excuse my response. My response was, who the flip is this man in the middle of my dining room, in the middle of the night? What am I doing in the dining room window? What is that smell? I know it. Halloween is 5 weeks away, 5 days away, excuse me. This is a sick Halloween prank. How can it be a Halloween prank? Where am I inside and outside bedroom walls? And how come I can see moonlight on the grass? And why is he talking to me? That can't be a truck. What am I doing in the window? I had enough pasta to eat. And all of a sudden I pause long enough. I hear his voice again. Is there somebody else in the house? Oh God, no. Where in the world is my wife? Ava! I remember frantically running around the house, trying to turn on lights. No lights in the house go on. Until I get to the far side wall, I flip on the lights to my second bathroom. I'm relieved they go on. The most horrible thing that every friend and family member said when they came in the house afterwards, they could see my distinct fingerprints throughout the house, especially over every light switch, lamp, bulb, chandelier, you name it. The only problem was there were fingerprints of blood. I get to the far side wall, I flip on the lights to my second bathroom, they go on, I'm relieved. I look in the bathroom mirror. Seriously, it's a horror show. I'm watching this waterfall of blood pour off my face, begin to pool in the sink, and I'm freaking out. But here's what really gets me to freak out. As I look in the mirror, I notice my tongue is sticking through my cheek, and I'm grabbing a towel, I'm getting it wet, and I'm trying to smack it back into my mouth, and all of a sudden I step back to the main part of the house, and that's when I see it. My blue sheets and mattress stuffed under the front of the truck, and something moving in the blue sheets and the mattress, and my first response is, oh God, no! Ava's underneath the truck! I remember running up to the truck trying to lift it, rock it, move it, I can't budge it. I remember looking at this guy like, hello, can you help me, please? He doesn't move, I hear pounding at the front door. I went to the front door, I open it, another man staggering and screaming. I saw the whole thing happen. I make a beeline past him down the block, I'm beating on my neighbor's door. I was told there was a trailway of blood to and from their house, their patio and front door covered with my blood. I get back to the front of the house. I hear somebody yell, there he is. Two men grab me from behind. I begin to fight with them a little bit. I don't know who these guys are. They say, sir, with the paramedics, everything's going to be cool. Cool? If you haven't noticed, there's a truck in my house. My wife could be able to take care of her, leave me alone. Sir, 3 of the paramedics are working on your wife. We need to take care of you. Through the house, they bring me past the truck. I'm fighting the whole time. They're yelling at me, trying to calm me down. I'm fighting to break away, to get to the truck, to get to my wife. Because let me tell you straight up, I am not perfect. My family was never perfect. But one thing I was always taught growing up, for me personally, is the woman that I fall in love with, I'm supposed to take care of her and protect her. And here's my wife in my house, under a bed, under a truck, and there's nothing I can do to help her. I fought my heart out trying to get to her. The paramedics pull me back in the room, out the front window, and here's what they say to me. He's got a broken left forearm. It's the size of a watermelon. There's an indentation that looks like a tire mark. And then they really freak me out. They say he's got burned rubber. All this blackness all over his skin. Burned rubber from the truck tires was melted into my skin. And I'm looking at it bubbling, and I'm looking at it smoking, and the next thing I know, the front window's open. I'm in this stretcher, in an ambulance, driving away from my house. And I gotta tell you, I don't know the most horrible thing you ever saw in person. I lived in New York City when 9/11 took place. I spent time in Washington, D.C. at the Pentagon after 9/11, and still to this day, for me personally, the most horrible thing I ever saw was driving away from my house in the middle of the night. Somewhere in that house is my wife of 2.5 years. And all I can see are 2 red taillights of a pickup truck glowing in the night. And most likely somewhere Ava's under that truck, and I get to the hospital, they wheel me in the emergency room, and they leave me by myself. I'm crying, I'm praying, I'm spitting glass out of my mouth. Where's Ava? Somebody talk to me, please. I want to wake up. God, this can't be happening. Why won't somebody let me know what's going on? And all of a sudden I notice somebody approaching my bedside. I excitedly turn to greet this. It's not a doctor. It's an older man with gray hair, glasses, gray shirt, jacket, black pants, shoes, a little white collar, and a long silver cross dangling in my face. He says, you Bobby Petrocelli. Sir, Father, Mr. Priest Chaplain, I don't know how you know me. I think I saw a truck in my house. Can you tell me, has my wife made it to the hospital yet? His first response to me was no. Okay, no, she didn't make it to the hospital yet, right? He goes, no, she didn't make it. Okay, she'll be here in 15, 20, 31 minutes. Is really what you're telling me, right? Students of Deer Valley, I knew I was in trouble when his eyes well up with tears. And those tears, as one of my favorite songs back in the 60s, began to leave tracks in his face. And then when he reaches out and grabs both of my hands, he says, I'm sorry. Oh no, please. If you're not here to apologize, I don't want to hear what comes next, please. And he finally gets my attention. He says, I'm sorry to tell you, your wife Ava did not make it. Your wife Ava is dead. And if this man is not lying, sir, one day did not change my life. One moment changed my life. I was sitting 5 feet from the wall when the truck ripped through the house. It ran me over completely, flipped me up on the hood of the truck. The truck landed on Ava, crashed through the next wall. Through the dining room table, and deposits me in the dining room window. It's a miracle I'm even standing in your presence to be part of this. When the truck landed on Ava, Sarah knocked all the air out of her body. The sheets in the mattress wrapped around her face and her body simultaneously. Basically, it was told to me when she went to get another breath of air, she couldn't. She suffocated. And I thought, what kind of man and husband am I? We talk about the greater effects of tragedies. I had to go through, what kind of man am I? And my wife dies in my bed, and I don't save her. The only thing that gave me comfort. The paramedics told Ava's parents it took them 40 minutes to dig her out when they got to her. She was dead. But at least it took them 40 minutes desperately trying to get to her. And I knew again, sir, one moment changed my life forever. 2 days later, I see Ava for the first time. Saturday night. What's the big deal about Saturday? You got to understand high school football in Texas. For me, 5 months a year, 12 to 18 hours a day, 7 days a week, I'm gone from home. The only time I could hang with Ava, Saturday night, Sunday morning, we go to church. I knew she wouldn't break the date. The only problem is I arrive at the building where she's at with some friends. A small storm, I was told, called Hurricane Juan, was now threatening the Houston area. And I see Ava in the distance. And I hobble up to her. And she's in a white purple casket that is open. And I can see her in the casket, and I call to her, and she doesn't respond. And I finally get to my wife, and I'll be honest with every person in this room, I got physical with her, and I started to shake her. And when she didn't respond, I pulled my wife out of a light purple colored casket. I threw her over my shoulder, and I turned to leave that room. And I took no more than 3 steps when every friend and family member rushed in that room. And that Saturday night, the 26th day of October at 6:15 p.m., I realized that my wife's not sleeping, and I'm definitely not dreaming. And the reality hit home again. One moment, not one day, one moment has changed my life forever. 2 mornings later, funeral service in the church. Our church didn't only see 500 people. We had over 2,000 people there. I'll get to that in a moment. From the church, we drive to downtown Houston. We had to orchestrate ourselves through the flooding from the hurricane that came through right after Ava was killed. As I mentioned, it wasn't severe, but enough to be a nuisance. But we had to have the services to get family back to New York and around the country. And I never forget, I get up to the casket, and let me make 2 quick side notes here quickly. Number 1, this is a reenactment of what takes place every day in America. So let's not take this lightly, even though mom still got to hug her son. There's too many situations mom don't get to hug her son. So please remember this. Number 1, if you know somebody going through something like this, do not ever walk up to them and tell them, I know exactly what you're going through. You have no clue what I'm going through. You know the pain, but you don't know the way I lost my loved one, and my relationship with them is different than yours. Even if it was a wife, it's still totally different. Number 2, I'm a person who has a strong faith, and I don't force my faith on anybody. But please, if you're a person of faith, don't come up to a person in the middle of their tragedy and say these words. You should be happy your loved one's in a better place. I ain't ready for my loved one to be in no better place yet. Can I deal with that later, sir? Absolutely. I'm not ready now. We'll deal with it. I mourn with those who mourn. I rejoice with those who rejoice. And I jump on the casket, and my friends peel me off with a simple promise, we can come back tomorrow. And they start to escort me back to the car. And right before I get to the car, one last look, one final goodbye. Because I know I come back tomorrow, that casket won't be above ground. And to all my amazing, wonderful, awesome people of Deer Valley High School, I am here today because what I saw that day in the cemetery. Do you know why when I speak in high schools all over America, I bow in the presence of high school students? I bow in the presence of those who work with them. I bow in your presence. Do you know why I bow in your presence? Because you're the greatest people on the face of this earth. But the sad reality is too many of you do not understand how awesome you are. Do you know why? Because something has happened in your life that you have allowed to define who you are. And everyone who has experienced pain, you know what pain tells you? You don't matter. You're not good enough. It happened to you because you're a mistake. And we listen to those crazy crazy, horrible words. Can we believe that? I am alive today because on the most tragic day in my life, I looked in the middle of the cemetery. You know who was running through the cemetery? On a school day, 1,100 students, teachers, coaches, counselors, administrators. The only person left at the high school was the principal. He couldn't leave. It was a legitimate school day. And I went back in the hospital for 23 days, and those students took over my hospital. And for 23 days, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, their actions screamed out 2 words to me: Coach, you matter! Mr. Petrocelli, you matter! Bobby, you matter. So you know what I've been doing for the last 22 years, sir? I've just been returning the favor. Letting precious, beautiful teenagers and children in America know they matter. Because the more they know they matter, they won't have to run to drug abuse and alcohol abuse and crime. And I work with gangs all the time. I go into prisons always. They won't have to run to groups of people that just try to make them feel better for the moment, to numb their pain, but they still got that open, gaping wound. You know what's also about scars? Scars represent a wound that is healed. You know how many people still in this room have open, gaping wounds in the soles of their life, and you know how they try to heal it? By abusing alcohol. Let me tell you something. You know the picture you saw of those kids partying, that girl right there who got arrested? You know what the whole story is? Somewhere in her life, her heart was broken. And she thought the way to be accepted, loved, fit in, and important was to abuse alcohol. Because that's what helped her for the moment. Just like the man who crashed drunk through my house. Drinking and driving is a symptom. He had to be drunk in the first place. This girl had to be drunk in the first place. Why? Why was she drunk in the first place? Why? You know why I think she was? Because in her mind, that was her way of fitting in and feeling better about herself and being accepted. And the young man who chose not to do it, he was confident enough in himself that he knew, I don't need this to be my identity. I already have a strong enough identity, and I've overcome my broken heart. That's why we choose some of the things we choose. Now, we don't need to go after symptoms anymore. We need to go after the root cause problems. That's why I appreciate what these gentlemen are doing in working with these precious, beautiful, amazing young people. That's why I do what I do. Because people need to know. Quickly, I need to wrap this up. You know how I can even be standing here in your presence? Do you know why the man crashed drunk through my house? There's a song that came out a few years ago by Natasha Bedingfield called Unwritten. Feel the rain on your skin. You can tell I like to sing. This is the only time I can get away with it. Because I can't at home. They don't let me sing at home, just so you know that. But in all honesty, the song Unwritten tells us we have an open book in front of us and open up the dirty window. You know what dirties the windows of the lives of everybody in this room? All the hurt and the pain and the rejection and the racism or the prejudice or whatever pain we've experienced that we've allowed to dirty the window of our life. So you know what happens, sir? If I look at this world through a dirty window, I can't really see you for who you are. There's a distorted, fragmented picture in my mind of who you are. I can't see how awesome and what you bring to the table. I don't see that. All I see is a distorted view because of my own hurt and pain for whatever reason I've gone down that path. I chose to forgive a man because I knew that man never forgave. You know what I had a kid tell me yesterday in Indiana, crying, hysterical to me? Thank you so much for forgiving the man who killed your wife. Because you came today to my school and you gave me hope that I matter and I can live and I can go on no matter what somebody has done to me. I don't have to go down that path. I've seen it honored. I'm back in Del Valley for the 5th time in about 10, 12 years. Because these people in here scream out quickly. The awesome part was, 4 years after my tragedy, I get married a second time. Why? I meet Susie a year and a half after Ava was killed, as we say in Brooklyn. I was a scam to date. I gave her a chance of dating for 3 or 4 months. She hit me with this big bag of gifts, brand new clothes and outfits from the Gap. I grew up in a generation where you're never too old to fall into the Gap. I know you guys and girls don't shop at the Gap, you shop at Hollister and Abercrombie and Fitch, where it's so dark in the store you can't even see what you're looking for. And why is it dark? It's dark on purpose so you can't see the price tag. So you know what happens? You go in Hollister and you see the clearance rack, you pick up this blouse, and you go to the register and you think the blouse reads $9.99. And all you get to the register, it rings up $99.99. You get so angry, you rip off the tag and you start screaming through the store, I'm gonna pop some tag. The first words when I married Susie Sir 1 year later, thank you for marrying this crazy spinning Italian and giving me a second chance at love and life. And the most awesome thing, what I'm about to tell you, I would have never dreamed possible. Last May, I watched my oldest son, I'll try not to get choked up, walk across the stage at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, and get his diploma after playing 4 years of college football for the Tar Heels in the ACC conference. I would have never dreamed that being a reality when I stood over a casket over 25 years ago thinking my life and my dreams were over. I would never dream having a second son who graduates at the age of some of these students, sir. He graduates this next upcoming May in about 4 weeks. He scares me for 2 reasons. One, I live in Florida. His #1 sport in Florida that he plays is ice hockey. Are you kidding me? And number 2, I'm in the car with him about a month ago. He turns to me with the biggest grin, says, Dad, I don't know how to tell you, but I love women. I love every age, shape, color, and size. I love them all. And he goes, Dad, and you know my friend Caleb? Yeah, okay, Dad, Caleb's mom is so... I don't want to hear the rest of that one. I don't want to hear that Caleb's mom's got it going on. But I would have never dreamed when I stood over a casket. Students, I am so honored to be in your presence and pour my heart into you. Quickly, if any of you ever want to reach me, you know, I'm on all those things, your book, this book, that book, whatever it's called, This Week Book, Instagram, Twitter. You can look it up, Bobby Petrocelli. It's real simple. But hear me carefully. If you like anything I had said today about how much you matter, I beg you from the bottom of my heart. You can thank me, that's okay. But you make sure every one of these beautiful, amazing students, teachers, and leaders, every one of these police officers, everybody who took the time and effort to come today to make this such a phenomenal program, because they're screaming out 2 words to you. That's why we're doing this. Because you matter, you matter, you matter, you matter, you matter. Thank you so